From what I see here, I see that these people advertise their emails all along. I see some 2023 and so on and back and forth. And they were pushy during MK Ultra to contact them. The British Royals were pushy during MK Ultra with their Facebook pages and ways to contact them. They would present me their royal websites, etc., 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 each in their own way, and when contacting them, how I have to properly address them, etc., etc. But now I see this stuff. Looks like a tremendous collection of bullshit. Now I have to admit that during MK Ultra I did also ask them about how can I contact them. That was sometimes in 2012, 2013. I actually asked them how to contact them. But you know, this is the point, this is the thing. The way they presented themselves to me, it's like during MK Ultra, through their ways to contact them, it was well, Charles presented himself as someone impossible to contact, and Queen Elizabeth presented herself as somebody who have mountains of letters. They would take me to these people they have hired for a mail that arrives. The Queen had these ladies. There was a whole pack of these ladies. It's like a postal office. They have like a postal office, and she would collect this mail, all these letters. That's at least how they presented me to me. This. There was in particular one older lady that she was working in there, that she was the one who was sorting out all that stuff. And they had people that answer all that stuff, take care of all that stuff, and deliver from their mail office to the postal office, etc., that kind of stuff. They had people, postal office people picking up their mail and stuff like this. It was a lot of that stuff before 2012, before 2013, before 2012 when I was thrown into the psychiatric hospital. But, you know, when it comes to the what people refer to as a rich and famous, rich and famous are people just like anybody else. That's one thing. And the second thing is, presenting yourself to somebody like myself during MK Ultra as a rich and famous, that doesn't have any kind of effect that would have on a regular person, unless as it was in 2012, 2013, when I was dumped into the psychiatric hospital and I really, really needed assistance in respect to crime against me. And so I always deemed that it was job of these people to contact me. I did not expect any kind of apologies or any kind of anything from these people. If they were to assist, if they were to help, that's how that kind of stuff is done. Now I figure out that if you're sitting on a horse and you see somebody in a mud that is drowning over there right in front of you, it's actually your job to assist that person. But in case of these people, things just simply deteriorated along as they were talking to me about all these wonderful emails and stuff like that without ever making any kind of attempt to contact me to step in between or anything like that. Because as a royal like this, you don't really have to step directly in between. You have so many agencies and all sorts of assets available to help the person. Such a small person as I was. And so they didn't help in 2012, they didn't help in 2013. And I am just glad I did not contact these people. I am just truly, truly glad. The way they have presented this stuff was also in a... I don't know. This is just the way they presented this stuff was nothing like, please contact me, something like that, so that I can help you or something like that. Nothing like this. It was more like, in a funny way, like, so that if you would even think about doing something like this, it would be like, it would just not be something that you would want to do, really, from the point of view that the whole thing even looked like ridiculous. So it was just not for me the thing to do. When it comes to Prince Charles, no, that was just too much. That was just extremely, extremely wrong. And so I'm glad I did not contact. I'm thinking about also the scam, scamming and stuff like this. Look what it says here, scam and stuff like this. I mean, if I would contact these people, these people were just waiting in the shadow, and attempts to contact them is, that kind of stuff could be really interpreted as a mental illness or attempt to scam them or something like this, desperate or something like that. Yeah, I had every reason not to. Prince Charles was, the way he spoke to me in such a way that you were like busy, like he did not give any kind of, wanting to be contacted, nothing like this impression. So I feel really good about not contacting these people. That would be truly... Yeah, that's actually when I consider all that stuff, I'm thinking about this stuff. A really, really smart thing to do not to contact these people. Truly, truly smart thing to do not to contact these people. what angered me the most is that they read my blog. They knew everything about my blogs and stuff like this. They were downloading my emails and stuff. They got all the possession about the passwords, absolutely every aspect of my life. They intruded in absolutely, completely, totally in my privacy, absolutely everything. They devoured absolutely everything I had on their hard drives, make copies of absolutely everything I was doing, absolutely everything. And so, I mean that you would not even bother to, and there was always a stupid shit involved. There was always this factor of lunacy involved in it. It was a stuff like, that you would have to recognize, that you would have to identify something, stuff involved in it. And, this is not a proper way to introduce yourself to somebody, and not introduce yourself, but this isn't about introducing yourself, but this is about, these people simply did not know limits to the stuff they were doing. I think, I can say these people are out of touch, out of reality completely. You just, there is certain things you can go as far as you can go in respect to certain relationship to somebody, especially to somebody with such a sensitive issue as it was myself. But then you cannot go beyond that. And these people had no borders. They had no limits. They did not know where to stop, when to stop, how to. And that's simply because they didn't want. They knew everything. You better believe it. They knew everything. They're smart people, very smart people. Too smart. I'm extremely pleased I did not. If he does have a phone, he does. He has a smartphone. King Charles does not possess a cellular phone. Oh, that's not true. King Charles does possesses a smartphone. That's a cellular phone. I know so because he loved to take photos of the flowers in his garden and shit. So this answer here that he does not have a telephone, that's a bullshit answer. He was extremely upset when he learned about Xiaomi Redmi that would enter the Slovenian market. We're planning on releasing the Xiaomi Redmi A5 on a Slovenian market. I don't know. In 2014 was already definite. This is when I had a Queen Latifah gesturing me that just because of the phone cover, the rear cover, it's really beautiful, that she wants the telephone like this. In fact, that I can say that she had a telephone like this, etc., etc., etc. And so, no, she doesn't have a telephone like this. it was the U.S. government officials that prohibit her from having a telephone like that. She had a better telephone. They gave her the telephones. Like they sort of choose for these wealthy, famous people. The U.S. government gave them a selection of the telephones that obviously they need to use. No, this is just really the way it is. Charles learned about this telephone, Xiaomi Redmi A5 model, sometimes in 2011, 2012, and in 2012 it was Prince William that had a smartphone, and it was about how much memory the telephone had, and it was like 128 gigabytes. Then it was about 256 gigabytes. Then he started to hallucinate 512 gigabytes, whatever. But this was a telephone that looked very, very much like Xiaomi Redmi A5, which is a 6.88-inch telephone. And it was Prince Charles who stated me, because he was making photos in the gardens. Obviously, he was making photos of the flowers and stuff. That's what he loved. Flowers. He couldn't believe these pictures he was taking, how beautiful that stuff was. He was always all absorbed about that stuff. And so he was upset because he said, then he said to the William, he said, then he's going to have a telephone just like this. And he was not happy about it. The prospect of regular mortals having a telephone with, cameras and with the stuff like that. And so he was so disappointed about the prospect that I could own the telephone like Xiaomi Redmi A5 that, which is basically you go to the Walmart and you get yourself a Motorola for $30, for the 30 US dollars. Probably those are better than the telephone I'm talking about. Nothing so special, but he was so disappointed about this that it came to his mind that, well, the case would not even make to have any sense anymore if I would get a hold of a telephone like that, and so on. He was a really sorry-ass individual. Pathetic. Truly pathetic. He does have a cellular telephone, but the truth is, he doesn't have one with him, but then also the truth is that King Charles did have a cellular telephone, yes, and that cellular telephone Prince Charles still had when others had already smartphones. And Prince Charles would keep this cellular phone, which was even red, I don't even know. I don't know what color it is. Maybe I should thought about that. I don't know. And he would keep that telephone even after the people would already get the cellular phones. Everybody was using a cellular phone. But Charles would use that telephone if he would go someplace so they could reach him on the telephone. So the truth is that he always had a cellular phone. This is one of those cheap cellular phones, easy, simple, really, really simple. Let me see what the cellular phone looks like. He did have a cellular phone. He probably had all of this, but stuff I'm talking about, what exactly was his cellular phone looked like? I think his cellular phone, I would even say, was Ericsson. I don't see anything like that really. Everybody had a cellular phones. They were presenting me the cellular phones. They were all excited about these cellular phones. I don't know. He didn't have only one telephone. He had more than one telephone. But I don't know. His cellular telephone, I don't really know what the hell that cellular telephone looked like. I'll have to think about. He had two cellular telephones, three cellular telephones. The first cellular telephones were a primitive looking cellular telephones, truly something like this. Truly something like a crap, like those early cellular telephones where they had them. He did have that. And no, it was not a flip phone. He did not like the flip phone. I had a flip phone, so I know that he was not into the flip phone. Maybe something like this will be it, but something like this will be more likely, like this Sony Ericsson that you see right there. Stuff like this. He did have a cellular phone, and like I stated, beginning of 2011, 2012, he did have his smartphone, and this smartphone was rather large, had at least 6.5 inch in the size, with a big ass screen, beautiful telephone, with which he would take photos. In 2011, 2012, this subject of this telephones came on a picture. Prince Charles had a telephone with 128 gigabytes, about maybe 6.5 inch at least, more. I would say about 6.8 inch telephone, smart telephone, Android, whatever prototype he was given. Prince William had probably about 512 gigabytes. Smartphone also. It was more advanced. And when this subject came on a surface, they again modernized the telephones. So that's probably why he was initially he had 128, and then he changed and said he's got a 256, and then it was soon more or whatever the hell he was doing. So, yeah, I know about all this stuff. I saw all this shit, so. He alone does not forget, probably remembers the stuff I'm talking about. Cuckoo clocks. Cuckoo. That would be exactly the thumbnail I would use for the email. Royal email. I would not send these cuckoos no fucking email in this world. No way I would want to do any of that stuff. And it had in it that this is in Australia. It's in Australia, this stuff here. I gotta do it like this. We're gonna do it like that. We're gonna take some of that. He did present me an email like this through the hospital. And he said, this is my only email. And was taking me obviously to Australian hospital. So with here stated, this email should have been on a picture already in 2016, 2017. So let's see it. 2018, do you see it? He said, that's my email. I spend enormously a lot of time with these people. And these people had enormously a lot of stupid shit in their heads. To put it plain and simple. Useless stuff. Totally, totally useless. This never ever was my intention. It really never ever was my intention. It never ever was my intention. What is it that he likes to be addressed with? His Majesty the King, or His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, and subsequently the King, the Prince, etc., etc. Nah, man, this will be, you know what? It was time when I felt so angry about this stuff. Because they pumped me up with so many issues pertaining to the kings and royal highness and stuff like that, that, you know, it's the anger that makes you, you know, go after them and makes you feel that you want to squash them till they call you the king, not the prince, but the king and majesty and so on and so forth. But the thing is that this is primitive, and royal business is primitive. This is extremely, extremely primitive. It's something, as a human being, you never ever can win. And the fact of the matter is that the human being is just about as strong as he gets in this world, because it's the human beings that decide about this so-called kings and queens and princes, etc., etc. You know? So, going past this rage, anger issues, I just yeah, you're gonna be really, really sorry for the stuff you have done it. That I promise you. There was people who said that I told them that, he said, how are you going to handle all this stuff and so on? You know, I told them I'm going to hire so many lawyers for this stuff once things start to go, that will be like a General Motors factory, which will consist of nothing other than lawyers inside working on this case, because this is how big this case is, you know. But yeah, you're gonna be sorry for doing this stuff to me. This stuff, there could be a lot of positive stuff that could come out of it, even future-wise for the people. But, you know, you guys made it difficult for everybody with your criminal conduct, and it's too damn bad. What can I say? for me personally, already the stuff like you see here, this kind of stuff, the Majesty, the King, this already is extremely, extremely wrong. You know, you can imagine what kind of insult to somebody like myself His Majesty the King or His Royal Highness represents. You can only feel. There's no way you can feel this stuff. But the thing is, I was the one who never had a problem with what I said, Majesty, King, Prince, whatever. I was the one who never had a problem with it. And the thing is, when they push you down the hill to the hell like this, then you start to have a problem with it, because you're proven wrong by the people whom you actually even have advocated. So you see, this is where that stuff, you know, His Majesty the King, His Royal Highness, and in my case this is based on who managed to accomplish something, is viewed as. And I view these people as completely useless. I view these people simply as somebody who was in it for their own, for themselves, on their own, and also more than anything to injure, to hurt from behind. And so anything like that, Majesty or the King or Prince or Highness or something like that, yeah, it actually does angers me. It angers me. It truly angers me. It's extremely, extremely inhumane for me to consider would address anybody in this world really as a Majesty, the King, or Royal Highness, or Prince, or something like that. That's never going to happen. Never ever that's going to happen. It could have, but it never ever will. And maybe it did during MK Ultra, but it never ever will again. This is never going to happen again. This is just enormous, enormous, enormous insult for me. These people are enormous, enormous insult. Obviously, these people even played psychiatrists, and their conduct was so criminal that next to the physical harm, physical injuries, I don't know which one of this is greater, but can you imagine that they labeled me as an insane? That they actually have a guts to label somebody like myself as mentally ill, which was quite often their subject during MK Ultra, was mental illness, what mental illness is, etc., politics, and so on, and this and that. You know, I for me personally, it's very, very, very difficult to I'm not going to say accept there's people that people address as Royal Highness and Majesty, etc., etc. But from the human perspective, from the human point of view, I don't see them as a. They were not really demanding from me to see them as a Royal Highness and Majesty and so on and so forth. Charles did some stupid stuff. He did some truly, truly idiotic stuff. And I really never had a problem with these chaps to see them as a royals and so on. Really, I never had a problem with them. Never had a problem. Never had a problem with that kind of stuff. The first time I had a problem with this stuff was when he threw me into psychiatric hospital and demanded from me to view him as a king and myself as a nobody. This is also the first time that he made point out of his royal title in his entire might for what he wanted me to see him as. So that was pretty disgusting, the stuff that I spoke to you about at least one of us is king, that kind of stuff. That truly could have psychologically very dangerous impact on my mind due to circumstances I was in. Through the hardship I have gone through, literally suffering inside a psychiatric hospital, dying inside. I could not even turn to the right side because of pain in the heart. Barely was walking, as I explained. Have a problem moving jaws. Saliva running out of mouth uncontrollably. I was in such a pain that I would ask my mom to tie me to the bed. This is impossible to deal with, this kind of stuff I had. I couldn't use the toilet one time 3 days. They were going to take me to open me, basically perform surgery on me to get the thing out. And you have somebody like this after so many years that comes in your face and tells you, by the way, I'm king and you're fucking nobody. Demands from you to acknowledge him as a king through like ultimate insult. This is just very, very bad. Very, very bad. The day when I was running from my home again, extremely, extremely bad. In 2018, after even landing inside of the Belarus, can you imagine how bad this stuff is? Can you imagine how bad stuff is that you run to the Belarus, which is like 100 years backwards? That you end up inside of the Belarus, in the poorest country in Europe, actually escaping the madness of the bureaucrats of the European Union and United States of America. And in 2018, we'll never forget the day, a hot summer day, without dime in the pocket, so to say 20 euros I had, with a trip that took me across the Hungary to Slovakia, to basically walk homeless Slovakia back and forth from one immigration location to another, end up in eastern part of Slovakia, inside of the camp for immigrants from the third world, where they demanded for me to stay months inside of the asylum system before being released out on a daylight. They treated me like immigrant from the third world. Can you imagine this shit? Homeless, completely without nothing. And I exited and proceeded instead toward Poland because they were going to kill me right there, right then in Slovakia. Slovaks are going to almost got me killed for filing political asylum in Slovakia in 2018. Sleep under the bare sky, man, with the stars above me, and would go sleep with completely fucked up liver and kidney. Would only get sleep about 2 hours, 4 hours sleep, and again walk and stuff like this. Till I was sent by the auto-stopping by Polish immigration, border immigration, to camp for the immigrants in the center of the Poland, Zgierz, near Zgierz, Grotniki. And you know, I am disgusted with these people. So disgusted it is impossible to explain. That I would go and regard somebody as a royal highness or king or prince or whatever. Wow, that you must be out of your fucking mind. If you do regard them like this, you're an insult for me. Sure enough that if you regard them like this, you will not have me anywhere near you. And I don't want you anywhere near me. That's a fact. Because that's the way it goes. It's not okay because British have done nothing to stop this. You have society as a nation, and you owe all the guarantees that pertain to that society is civilized society. But in the British case of British, you have a barbarians at top of the British society, total barbarians, totally uncontrolled. Or I have no idea, or maybe this is what British liked. Who knows what the issue is? Maybe even that, who knows? But for me, that I would go, and Your Royal Highness and this, yeah, you're out of your fucking mind. You're definitely out of your fucking mind. These people owe Mount Everest of the money on top of the stuff that I stated. Mount Everest of the money. From smuggling of South African diamonds to Britain, to stealing oil from British government, American government, Australian, Canadian governments, through Iraqi trade with the Soviet Union, business, thefts. They were always using me for more and more and more and more theft. And this is just some of the theft next to all the theft that I spoken about. They have involved me in. These people have fucking stolen money in numbers that you cannot even count. I walked in with these people inside of the Switzerland, which was really nothing, but it was a vault where they keep the gold and stuff like that. It was something and so on. And so that you would treat me like a piece of shit like this, with my age, 53, my giving you any kind of form of respect to the kids like this, much younger than myself. They were not even born. They were not in this world anywhere. Nobody's treated me like a shit. That's never gonna happen. They already involved even their grandchildren, by the way. Even their grandchildren already insulted me. Even their grandchildren were already involved in MK Ultra. So chances that I would contact these people ever do not exist. And I do not want to be contacted by these people anymore. It is like this, that if you would contact me, I do report you to police. I do report you to authorities. I do put you on my block. That's the way I treat this kind of stuff. The time has come that you have nothing to contact me for.